Blizzard has proved once again that if they don't like the direction the game is moving, they aren't afraid to shake things up quite a bit. In the upcoming patch 1.7, which is currently on the PC PTR, they're taking what seems to be a direct shot at the tank-heavy meta that we've been dealing with in recent weeks. Today in this video, I'm going to go over all of the changes and try to break them down in detail for you and tell you what I think this is going to end up meaning. So let's go ahead and start off by taking a look at some of the hero balance changes, beginning with Ana. Ana is seeing a nerf to her biotic grenade. The healing boost that allies receive has been now decreased by 50%. Now, of this change, Blizzard said that the healing boost from Ana's biotic grenade was providing too much healing, especially when used on targets with large health pools. Again, obviously a direct reference to the tank heavy meta. So let's break down how biotic grenade works. As it stands right now in the live servers, biotic grenade heals for 100 and then increases all healing by 100% for 5 seconds to any affected targets. Now, for just looking at Ana herself, her base gun heals for 75 per shot, and with that grenade buff, it brought it up to 150 per shot. However, with the PTR changes, her follow-up heals will now be reduced to 112.5, a reduction of 37.5 healing per shot. Now, to just give you an idea as to what this is going to actually translate to in-game, if we were to take a tank at critical health, let's say Roadhog, and say he's at 50 health. We toss a biotic grenade, it heals for 100, and then takes 3 follow-up shots at 150 per to bring him back up to full 600 health. However, with the changes that are on the PTR, if he starts at 50, we heal him for 100, it then takes 4 follow-up shots at 112.5 to bring him back to 600. So the changes effectively added 1 more shot required to heal up a critical health tank all the way to full. Roadhog, D.Va, and to a lesser extent, Reinhardt, Winston, and Zarya, because they have less HP. Regardless, it takes Ana more to heal up these tanks to full when they're low. And that was really some of the big problems that Ana was having. One of the reasons the tank heavy meta has been so prevalent is because Ana, having the best burst healing in the game, only usurped by Zenyatta's ultimate, for God's sakes. I mean, Ana could bring up anyone at low health really quickly, and she can still do that. It's gonna take about 1 more shot to bring everyone back up to full health compared to how it is right now. Now, is that extra second worth of time, is it gonna be enough to really change things up and to get rid of the tank heavy meta? Well, maybe not Ana's change specifically by itself, but that coupled with some of the tank changes that we're seeing in this patch might be enough to change it up. Speaking of which, let's now move on to D.Va. So D.Va got a nerf to her survivability. Her health pool has been changed. Health has been increased from 200 to 400, but armor has been decreased from 400 to 200. So she still got 600 health, but 200 less armor compared to what she had. And of this, the developer said that D.Va's armor often made her feel like she had no weaknesses, even against heroes that are often effective against bigger targets like Reaper. Why is this? Well, because of the way armor functions. If you don't recall, let me refresh your memory. Armor reduces all incoming damage by 5 per shot, unless the damage is less than 10, at which point it halves that number. So if you've got heroes that deal a low amount of damage per shot, they are less effective against targets with a lot of armor. And D.Va, prior to this change, had a third of her total health pool as armor. Now D.Va, with less total armor, it's going to be easier for characters like Tracer, Reaper, and even Soldier to kill her. And that's going to be a really big problem given how strong Soldier is right now. Soldier, actually, without getting any changes, Soldier got a huge buff this patch because we saw the nerf to D.Va, and we're seeing what you might call kind of a nerf to Roadhog. We'll get into him a little bit later, though. There was also an additional change to D.Va. She had a nerf to her fusion cannon damage. Bullet damage has been decreased from 3 to 2. At the same time, however, the number of bullets per shot has been increased from 8 to 11. Developer said that the changes to her fusion cannons will result in a small overall decrease in damage, but they should feel more consistent now. So let's look at what that, I don't know what the fuck that's supposed to mean, by the way. They feel more consistent. What? So 2 damage per bullet, it feels more consistent than 3 damage per bullet? I think they're just placating there, but let's go into the numbers here. So the old amount of damage, it was 3 per bullet times 8 per shot. That was 24 total damage per shot. New D.Va fusion cannon does 2 damage times 11. That's 22 damage per shot. So she's now dealing 2 less damage per shot. apparently that feels more consistent. So yeah, it's a small decrease. I don't understand why they say it feels more consistent. I think that's just kind of bullshitting us, but whatever. Regardless, D.Va is slightly less tanky with a reduction in armor, and she does slightly less damage. But we're looking at the total picture. D.Va wasn't hurt too much, but that with the Ana burst healing nerf, I mean, these could really shift things up. Now let's move on to Roadhog. This is very interesting. We're gonna have a bit to talk about here. Chain Hook went through all the changes that we talked about in our recent video. This was all alluded to a couple of days ago by Jeff Goodman, principal designer of Overwatch. Well, everything they talked about actually came through. So the first change is targets are now pulled directly in front of Roadhog rather than straight to him, except in cases where Roadhog drastically rotates. So their hope here is to stop people from dropping everyone off of cliffs, which I hate to break it to you, it actually works as it currently stands. The second change was a line of sight check, which detects whether the target should be initially hit by Hook. These are done from Roadhog's position rather than the Hook's position. What this means is when Hook is tossed out, if Roadhog himself does not have line of sight on the target, that person will not attach to the Hook, where in the past, Hook would be tossed out, and if the Hook itself had line of sight to the target, the end of the Hook, for example, had line of sight to the target, then Hook would attach. But now it is required that Roadhog sees the target for Hook to attach. And the last change, and this is the biggest of all, and this is the one that's going to probably feel most inconsistent and be most frustrating for every Roadhog player, is that Hook targets, they now require constant line of sight to Roadhog for the pull to happen. So this means if you throw out your Hook and the Hook applies, if at any point they break line of sight, even for a moment, even if they're just passing across a goddamn tiny tree, that will break line of sight temporarily and detach the Hook. Now, their statement on this change is that Hook should feel more consistent for Roadhog players, but it should feel more reasonable to his enemies. Also, they cannot hook or pull people around corners anymore. Okay, so Hook feels more consistent when it applies. If you are out in the wide open and you hook a target, you know exactly where they're landing. No matter where you're facing, no matter what their momentum was, what your momentum was, when they are pulled towards you, they're gonna be right in front of you. And this is now gonna be very strong at killing targets that were kind of a little funky before. Ana being the greatest example. She would land a little bit further away than most other targets so that you couldn't one-shot her. If you hook someone, they are likely to be one-shot if they're 200 HP or lower. But Hook applying and Hook targets staying hooked is now incredible. It's been a disaster. You could just check the forums and see the litany of posts of people showing things where you tossed out the Hook, it applied, and then they walk by like they brush the edge of geometry of a corner or of a tiny ass tree, and somehow that's enough to detach the Hook. It's going to be very frustrating for Roadhog players, but Roadhog's Hook was undoubtedly very strong. It created many frustrating moments for the people being hooked, so maybe Blizzard feels that it's better for the Roadhog player to be frustrated than the person who's getting hooked how they feel is unfairly and then dying in a one-shot kill as a result. I guess that's what they're saying. And then finally, it's not all doom and gloom here with this patch. We actually did get a buff, and this was to Sombra, although meh, I don't know if you even count this. So Hack has had the time decreased from 1 second to 0.8 seconds. So it takes 0.2 seconds less time to hack a target. Of this, Blizzard says Sombra often had a difficult time hacking enemies, even when she surprised the target. This change should help her execute hacks more easily. Now, they're obviously going with the tiny adjustment approach over to the big sweeping changes when it comes to Sombra. I just don't know that this is it. Listen, it is true. I talked to many Sombra players, and what most people have told me is that Hack is almost exclusively reserved for health packs. You will occasionally use it if you get the drop on someone, but even then, most of the time, if you're playing against a coordinated team, as soon as you start hacking, even if the person you're hacking doesn't notice it, one of their 5 teammates will notice it and shoot you before the hack completes. If you try to do that more than once, you're probably dead before anything matters. So 9 times out of 10, if you were up against somebody, even if you surprised them, it made a hell of a lot more sense to just shoot them and deal damage to potentially kill them versus trying to hack them and then dealing damage to kill them. And does 0.2 seconds a reduction of time make that any more likely? It makes it slightly more likely to apply, but I don't know that these are the real changes that Sombra is going to end up needing. I don't know that this is going to be enough to change people's opinions of her. Now, we did see some changes beyond the balance changes. We had some quality of life stuff. First of all, the emote wheel. You can now equip up to 4 emotes, 4 sprays, and 4 voice lines to every hero. You do so in the hero gallery. memory, and then that transfers into the game. The voice lines and emotes have a sub-menu that will be accessed with the left and right mouse button when you pull up the communication wheel, and then on top of that, players can now bind individual sprays, emotes, and voice lines to unique keys or mouse buttons. And in-game, great change, the kill feed has been adjusted. Now, hero ability icons are displayed, ultimate abilities are indicated, and then headshot eliminations are indicated with a red icon. Adds more clarity to what is happening in the game versus just seeing who killed who, and I really like that. And that is it, guys. So some big changes, quite clearly aimed at the tank-heavy meta right now, will be enough to shift things up. We'll have to stay tuned in the coming weeks to see how things shake up. Well, thank you all so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Hope you have a good afternoon, and until next time, I'll see you later.